Welcome to another comprehension for 11 plus or SATS from In the Know Education. Okay, the first thing we would do if we were in the exam paper is we would go straight away down and we would look at what the first question was, and the first question is, what is a possible result of being courageous? So this combined with, obviously, we've seen the title, which is courage, gives us a good idea that this comprehension is about courage and about being courageous. But we get a little bit more because we can see here we've been given a definition of conscription when we're told that conscription is where usually men, usually aged between 18 to 45, must enter the armed forces of a government for possible service in a war. So we now know that there's courage, where we've got a definition of courage or what courage does, and we also know that there may be something about war in this as well. Okay, so let's begin reading. Does being courageous promote courage in others? Courage can be defined as a person with a fear that could immobilize, that is, stop a person from an action, but instead they still continue the action even with the fear. Every time someone still performs an action despite it creating fear in them, it could be said that they are being courageous. Often people say that watching someone performing an action that they feared, such as fear of flying or having a vaccination, helped them to deal with their own fear. In World War I, the United Kingdom saw almost half of non-serving military and conscripted personnel being volunteers. It would have taken much courage to go to another country away from family and friends to go to war. The United Kingdom brought in conscription in 1916, and indeed those who were conscripted as well as those who volunteered would have had their courage boosted and enriched by those before them who had gone to war despite huge fear. The innumerable amount of memorials all over the world to commemorate the fallen in wars as well as survivors of war show how courage helps others with their own fear and courage. In 2018, a statue to Dame Millicent Garrett Fawcett was unveiled in Parliament Square in London. She is holding a placard that states, "Courage calls to courage everywhere." This can be interpreted as courage encouraging others to be courageous. Among other pursuits, Millicent Fawcett was a suffragist. Before 1918, many men and all women could not vote, and women who promoted equal rights for women could face being shunned by their families and by their employers. Suffragists were formed in the late 19th century to attempt to gain the vote, in particular for women. Dame Millicent Fawcett devoted a large amount of her life for women to gain the right to vote. In 1917, she led a delegation to meet the Prime Minister Lloyd George to push for the vote for women. This was very courageous, as the treatment of women, and particularly some suffragettes, another movement who fought for the right of women to have the vote, sometimes suffered shocking, humiliating violence and loss of jobs for pushing for their right to vote. Potentially, by leading the delegation, Dame Millicent Fawcett could have faced retaliation from those who opposed the vote for women and therefore could have potentially ruined her life. However, armed with the courage that so many women in the previous decades had had in pushing for equal rights for women, Dame Millicent Fawcett continued, and her courage impressed the Prime Minister. On the plinth upon which the statue of Millicent Fawcett stands are the names of women who also courageously struggled to enable women to have the vote. Among this list of women are the names of suffragettes, who are a much smaller group and often used violence in their approach. However, Millicent Fawcett and the suffragists never approved of the use of violence and never of breaking the law. Not far from the statue to Dame Millicent Fawcett is another statue. This very large and imposing memorial to Queen Boudica or Boadicea and her daughters on a chariot remembers their great courage almost 2,000 years ago. Around 43 AD, the Romans invaded the area of what today is called southeastern England. However, when Queen Boudica's husband, the king, died, the Romans plundered their lands and household. Boudica and her supporters defended valiantly their territory. Although the statue near Westminster Bridge certainly commemorates the victory of Boudica and her daughters over the Romans in London, the statue of course also refers to the final battle over 100 miles away in the Midlands. This dramatic and violent battle is believed to have taken place near the town that is known today as Nuneaton. At the battle, it is alleged that Boudica and her daughters rode around in a chariot, exhibiting their courage to buoy up their supporting tribes, urging them to have courage to defend themselves against the Romans. Queen Boudica and her supporters were savagely defeated. However, her courage was definitely one of the main factors that led eventually to the Romans leaving. Courage often means taking action that is testing and tough, whether it is sitting an exam or defending your country or striving for equal rights. Courage is never easy. However, courage encourages courage in others, and most of what we achieve in life comes from some form of courage. In 1599, William Shakespeare wrote in his play Julius Caesar that the valiant never taste of death but once. Through the character Julius Caesar, Shakespeare is saying that the fear of what we have to face in the course of life can stop us from living our life to the full and enjoying all the opportunities that life can bring. Okay, so the first question is, what is a possible result of being courageous? Well, we go right up to the top and we can see that courage can be defined as a person with a fear that could immobilize them. And we're told that one of the aspects in the question is what is a result of being courageous is that every time someone performs or someone still performs an action despite it creating fear of them, it could be said that they are being courageous. So therefore, often people say that watching someone performing an action that they feared can help them deal with their own fear. So that first question, what is a possible result of being courageous, is that it can often help people deal with their own fear. They watch someone else dealing with it by being courageous, and so they deal with it themselves. The second question is put a circle around the correct answer. Courage is a verb, B, a proper noun, C, an abstract noun, or D, an adjective. And I've given you a little bit of strategy for question 2. To check if a noun is an abstract noun, see if you can literally touch it, taste it, see it, i.e. see it directly with your eyes, hear it or smell it. In the case of the noun courage, it cannot be tasted, touched, seen with your eyes, heard, and we cannot smell it. So courage is an abstract noun because it does not use one of the 5 senses. I've gone further down actually and talked about more examples of abstract nouns which you can look at later to enrich your knowledge so that you can be really successful in your grammar questions. But for the moment, we can then see that because we can't touch it or taste it or smell it or see it literally, then we know therefore that we therefore know that it is C, an abstract noun. My apologies. It is C, an abstract noun. Okay, number 3, approximately what fraction of men were volunteers in World War I? Well, if we go up here, we can see that it says almost half of non-serving military and conscripted personnel being volunteers. Saw almost half of non-serving military and conscripted personnel being volunteers. So, therefore, that's an easy mark, isn't it? We can now know that it's about a half. 4, what does courage calls to courage everywhere? Suggest another good comprehension question that you just have to look at the detail. Courage calls to courage everywhere. This can be interpreted as courage, encouraging others to be courageous. So once again, another one that we could get extra marks for. What is the main difference between suffragists and suffragettes? Well, if we go up here, this is another one which we can easily find. We're told here that the suffragettes used violence in their approach, where suffragettes never approved of the use of violence and never of breaking the law. So therefore, that's another easy mark that we can get. Then we've got number 6, what verb does valiantly describe? So if we come down here, the main clue in this question is that it asks what verb does valiantly describe. So you can look at what valiantly is describing. And the answer is it's defended. So what's a way to find this verb? First, look at the subject in the sentence. The subject can be a person, a thing, an idea, or a place. And a proper noun is the name of a person or a place will start with a capital letter, and this will give you an extra clue. The subject is also often found at the beginning of a sentence. When you've found the subject, one way to find the verb is to ask yourself, what action is the subject doing? In the sentence, in the comprehension, it says, Boudica and her supporters defend their territory. Boudica is the subject as she's a person. The verb is her action, which is defended. Okay, then moving on to question number 7. Circle a synonym for alleged. Okay, so it's alleged to have been near Nuneaton. The battle, it says here, was alleged to have been near Nuneaton. So it's believed to have taken place at the battle. It is alleged that Boadicea and her daughters rode around in a chariot. So alleged. So it doesn't mean, let's have a look at the answers we've got. Supposed, yes, that fits beautifully. True, well, it's not true because it's alleged. If it was true, it would have been a fact. Exact, no, that would have been a fact, and it's certainly not an ally, is it? So it must be 7A, it must be supposed. Then number 8, in the comprehension, boy is used as a verb. What is boy when it's used as a noun? Well, here it's used as a verb in the comprehension. A buoy is something that is afloat, that is anchored down in the water. It often looks like a very large coloured ball, and it can often be used. It helps, for example, fishermen to find perhaps where they've put their lobster pots. It also helps people to navigate waters. For example, when you're out on a boat, you know that buoy probably means that there's a rip there or a very dangerous current. So because the buoy is a big round circle like a ball in the water, it's a thing, so therefore it's a noun. It's not a verb. It's not showing action. And finally, what does courage mean? Well, this is another comprehension question, and we've clearly got a nice clear answer here. We've got courage often means taking action that is testing and tough. So another good, just using the detail, reading the detail of the comprehension clearly shows you what the answer is and will give you marks. Okay, I hope that that's been another good one that has helped you to see a challenging comprehension that will help you to challenge any comprehension that you get and to feel really confident about it. Please, if you get a time, will you go over the question 2 strategy and go over the question 6 strategy, because I've given you some extra information so that you can really be enriched in your knowledge and do extra well and have that edge for your exams. Okay, we'll look forward to seeing you soon, and we'll have another comprehension that will help you perfect your answers even further. It's bye from In the Know Education.